Thank you, Chair. So I want to begin by congratulating you yet again on a really fine piece of work. And I think it is utterly intolerable that any bullying and harassment should happen in a third level college, full stop. I think that, but wherever we have a power imbalance, we have always got to have systems and procedures in place to ensure that those who would utterly exploit their position are curtailed in the extreme. It is utterly unacceptable that we would have NDAs used in these sort of context. I can appreciate the sensitivities, but there are ways and means of dealing with that, and not the least of which would be tackling a culture at its very start. Minister, I know in the past year you have declared zero tolerance for bullying and harassment and have set in motion a series of measures to ensure that campuses are safe places. The mandatory requirement to record and report statistics on bullying and harassment complaints not only gives us a basis for metrics to educate us on how best to target supports and anti-bullying measures, but it also gives us a measure of how the colleges themselves are truly engaging in the subject. I've always, with the GDPR end of things, I've always felt if you didn't have a disclosure, if you didn't have a complaint, then you're not really managing the system properly. So I would actually laud the colleges that report statistics of complaints as being actively engaged in dealing with the culture there. On sexual harassment, absolutely, we need to move to a position where people feel safe, full stop. It should never, ever occur. I wrestle with the concept of teaching consent. I absolutely 100% support it, but on the other hand, there should just be a basic floor level of human dignity and respect. Consent isn't something that should be needed to be taught. Respecting another people and the autonomy of their body and how they're spoken about, including our Fianna Fáil colleagues, in every possible way should be something that is a basic human respect. So it is shocking that people have to be taught it, but nonetheless they are, and I appreciate what has been put in place. When it comes to bullying and harassment, in an employment setting, there is a very good, the basis of grievance procedures are set out in Statutory Instrument 146 of 2000. In that, if an employer, regardless of the substantive, complaint, if an employer doesn't adhere to the procedures, they might have made the right decision in sacking somebody, but if they don't adhere to proper procedures that are objective and that can be objectively looked at, in that instance, the presumption is always against them. And I would urge that at the end of the survey and when we have statistics, that we have a similar system put into place. That if you make a complaint against a college and there isn't a transparent system of investigating that complaint, that the presumption will be against the college and that there is some outcome of automatic redress for a student. Because it is, in employment terms, the High Court have ruled that to take someone's job away is the same as taking away their liberty. To undermine a student's ability to achieve their full potential in university is just as detrimental. Students go into third level environments to ensure that they have a future, they invest, there is a duty of care on the part of the third level colleges that should be discharged fully and transparently. And last year I brought a case that I was supporting a family through to your office, and your office supported it fantastically, and we're great in doing that. But of a student, his mother came to me, a student who made a complaint against his lecturer, made a complaint in the manner in which the lecturer was treating him, in some of the observations on the projects and that, and the work that he was doing. The lecturer retaliated. The matter was investigated by the very people to whom the complaint should be made in a manner that was utterly replete with conflicts of interest. In the entire situation there was a subjective looking at an examining of the situation in the most appalling manner. By any employment law standards, they'd have been absolutely thrown out. The workplace relations would have had a great time with them. But there was no, so this young person is left with only the choice to go to someone else. You know, he was promised an external examiner to observe. There was a whole heap of things, and none of that was put in place. And there was no effective, objective third party to whom he could bring his complaint. So I think that at the end of all of the work and the body of work and the surveys and the work that you're doing, I think that we need a system like that. And I know we have the Ombudsman, and I know that there are a requirement to have procedures, but I think that in a way we need a statutory instrument. We need some sort of measures like that that are utterly objective, and that the presumption is against the party holding the power if those procedures are not absolutely and fully adhered to. And lastly, just I suppose I would stick in a mention for apprenticeships. You know, we have an impressive ramping up of apprenticeships. And on that, I would say, we saw one of these agony aunt type letters to the papers this week of a young person who, again, is in a very powerless position in a culture of misogyny, of sexual comments and lewd remarks, and feeling that they are disempowered. So I think that we need a similar situation, albeit that that's in an employment context, so there are systems in place. But thank you for all the work that you have done in the last year, and well done, well done.